All of our prayers have been answered. Cloud9 has finally signed an Awper. It may have cost Shiro, Perfecto, and Electronic, but we are back. Cloud9 just signed Icy, the new Awper, Interz, the new support, HeavyGod, the new site anchor, to join Axile and Boomich in our new 5-man lineup. Let's talk about it. HeavyGod, I'm so happy about this signing. I think he's the best possible player we could have gotten to fill Perfecto's shoes. Quoting Maui Snake, he believes that he is the best anchor in the world on tier 1.5 to tier 2 teams.
When it comes to people that are on the tier 1.5, tier 2 orgs, HeavyGod is by and large the best anchor player.
It's time for him to step up into tier 1. I'm extremely excited to have him. Tape that I've watched on him just show he's so solid as an anchor, holding down sites, taking areas of the map. The only problem with him is he shares every spot with Axile. So there's definitely going to be some learning there, but we're going to get to that in a second. He is one of the players I hope that we would get, and I'm very, very happy to have him on the team. Icy. Obviously everyone wanted Monacy, myself included. There was even rumors that Cloud9 tried to get Monacy, but for whatever reason that didn't work out. Maybe we couldn't pay enough money, they wanted too much. Maybe they actually weren't willing to sell him at all. I don't know. If you look down the CIS Awpers, you got Monacy, that didn't work out. Jame, that doesn't make sense. Shiro, he's not coming back. Wonderful, he's not coming. Simple, he's not coming. So when you go through and you look at who could we possibly get, you kind of get into this next tier of players that have potential. And having watched Icy, the more demos I watched of him, the more I felt excited about him. Icy is a more passive Awper than he is aggressive. He does definitely end up being a utility dump on T side, does play for later rounds typically. He's also not a flicker. He takes time to line up his shot, which a couple of the demos I watched cost him his life, but more often than not, it actually works out really well because he just hits everything. He does not miss basic shots. So his patience from before the shot gives him such a high accuracy, and the number of times he dies from that is far less than the ability for him to keep his percentage so high on just hitting those basic shots and making sure that he nails the person. He's going to be such a significant upgrade over the Boomich, Perfecto, Hobbit, Opping extravaganza. And then you get to Interz. And at first I had extreme sticker shock. It's like, no, we're bringing back Interz. Like we have Axile, Boomich, we signed HeavyGod, we signed Icy, who's maybe the top available Awper that's realistic to get. And then we signed Interz. And here's where I'm at with Interz, is he could work with this team because he's a mid-round entry. He can kind of work the map with Boomich. You can have HeavyGod on one side of the map, Axile on the other side of the map, Icy going around Opping, Boomich taking space, and Interz can kind of be with Boomich taking that space or be an entry as they get to the later rounds for Axile and HeavyGod to be coming in behind and still letting Icy play the later game like he's used to. My problem with Interz is he hasn't played really even tier 2 CS in 1.5 years. So I see the upsides of the chemistry, the fit, and he's been there before. He's been on the teams. He knows the system. I see all those upsides. So part of me starts to be like, okay, like this can really work. But the other part of me is just sitting here nervous that he has a very okay rating versus playing mostly teams who aren't even in the top 50 of HLTV. Yeah, he doesn't have a good rating because he's a support player, but he's also playing nowhere near the competition that he's going to be playing, and he hasn't for a very long time. So I'm skeptical on the form. I understand the fit. I'm hopeful, but I'm a little bit reserved. When you look at the roster as a whole, though, the team should be better than what we had. Because if you look at it this way, if you just take Interz out of the picture and you look at the other 4 that we had, you take that 4 with the Boomich op, and then you swap that to have a real op who's actually good in Icy. You have Boomich in his normal role, and then you have HeavyGod and Axile both playing at least in their semi-comfort. Some maps they might be in a new spot, but they're still kind of playing their similar roles of anchors lurking one side of the map. I don't see any way that that 4 isn't better than the 4 that we had. And so then if you take the last person who's Hobbit and Interz, I thought Hobbit was very in the middle. He didn't move the needle for me at all. Some maps he'd do well, some maps he would really not do well. He was someone who I thought we had to cut a long time ago to bring in Awper. He definitely wasn't someone I thought needed to stay on the roster and not have an Awper. He was not that good. So if you are changing Hobbit for Interz, Hobbit probably is a better player than Interz. He's actually hanging with tier 1 CS. Interz hasn't been there, so I can't say he's as good as Hobbit. But if you look at the 4, I don't see how that 4 isn't better, and what we had made top 8 of a major. The one thing I'm afraid of is I'm afraid we might end up being too passive, because we have HeavyGod, who again, site anchor, likes to lurk. You have Axile, site anchor, likes to lurk areas of the map. Interz, very passive to start the rounds, kind of becomes a mid-entry, typically kind of a passive player. Then you have Icy, more in the middle than passive. And then you have Boomich, who's super aggressive. So I'm a little bit afraid that Boomich might end up in situations where he's kind of alone, thinking, hey, come with me, we're all going. And then everyone's kind of defaults to how they normally play. And they're all late round players. So they all are defaulting to save my life, turn around, watch for the flanks, watch here, instead of going in with Boomich. So that's one fear that I have. But that's something that can be practiced, and something that Axile or maybe even Interz or HeavyGod, some of them can take that over, or if they just understand the system as a whole, with Boomich having been there longer, then that can be changed. I just wanted to note that we do seem to have a fairly passive team. Can we actually take a title? I think that it's possible. It feels like everyone on the team would need to be in their top form, which historically with this team seems to come and go. You have, oh my gosh, we're making top 8 of the major, we're steamrolling everybody, and then the next map it's like, can we kill anybody? We've had that for a very long time. Will that inconsistency go away? I don't know. Will it be better than what it was? I absolutely think so, because we have a solid Awper who just does not miss, and I think that is going to be huge. When you have an Awper who is holding areas of the map and does not miss, you're going to be getting opening kills, you're going to be able to stop the other team from assuming they can just aggress in all these different situations. When you have all rifles, the aim can just go sometimes, and when you have a solid op who can just get you that pick and just mentally change you from, okay, it's a 5v5, they have an Awper, we're all rifles, to, okay, it's a 5v4, like we can do this. It's just a big mental shift, and I think that stability will add a lot. So like I said, I think we can be better and potentially take a title, but also it would need to kind of be a run where we're all in form. So that kind of brings me to, where do I rank us versus other teams? I kind of put this team in probably the 5 to 8 range. Like, we're not better than Spirit or Vitality, not better than Mouse. FaZe, you could kind of make a case potentially about us being with them, seeing as they're kind of downsliding. So maybe they continue to downslide, but also their downsliding is like top 8, and historically they absolutely own us. So I'm still going to put us below them, and I think we're in that next tier with like Navi, Virtus Pro, G2, and I definitely think we can kind of mix it up with them. We already were in that tier with the super scuffed last lineup. So just by adding an Awper, I think we're going to be better than we are. So I think we can be in that mix and potentially be at the higher end of that mix, somewhere around 5, 6. And when you look at the rosters, what did we really lose? We lost some absolutely big names in Electronic and Perfecto and Shiro. If we talk just about Electronic and Perfecto, there's a potential that we upgraded Perfecto. So what did we lose there? Potentially nothing. And then Electronic had some insane games for us, but kind of fell off late. And also after Electronic came, Shiro left. And then there was more problems in the lineup. And then he decided to leave. And now there's rumors that he's causing problems in Virtus Pro, or there's like talk about him taking over IGL and stuff like that. So maybe it was good to shed that. Because I have this theory that Axile needs to be on a team where the chemistry is good, and that the better the chemistry is, the better Axile is. So potentially getting rid of that negativity or that toxicity or whatever is going on there could actually boost Axile as well. Now we replaced Electronic. So you can say we replaced Electronic with an Awper, either Icy, or you can say that we replaced him with Interz. Either way, if it's a replacement kind of for Interz, I was kind of hoping Interz would be a space taker like Electronic was. So that's obviously a downgrade, but maybe as far as the actual team environment goes, it's an upgrade. Or if you say that you are trading Hobbit for Interz and Electronic for an Awper, then the team probably gets better just making a straight trade of an Electronic for an Awper. Then when you get to Shiro is the one that I wish we kept. I think when Shiro came to management and said, I want out, it should have been, okay, what do you need? Because we'll do whatever you want to keep you here. You don't like the coach? Gone. You don't like Electronic? Gone. Like, whatever we should have done to keep Shiro, I think is what we should have done. But that's gone now. And now we have Icy. And Icy is clearly a gigantic upgrade on Boomich, because we're going to have someone who hits shots consistently, and also someone who is an Awper, and so knows how to hold angles and knows the angles that Awpers like to play, versus Boomich, where sometimes just being a new Awper, no fault of his own, he can practice as much as he can, but there's a difference between being an Awper for years and being an Awper for months. When you look at what we really lost, it doesn't seem as big as the names feel. But this all kind of comes down to a couple things. One, I think Axile is the absolute linchpin of this team now. I think his form is going to dictate how well we do. If Axile moves up along with giving some of his spots to HeavyGod, then I think that is where the team will roll. And so with the spots with Axile and HeavyGod, my guess is they're going to be splitting it up. And I've seen this in some of their facets, and I understand that their facet matches. They don't even have all 5 of their players, but I'm going to use them as what I've seen because I've seen some consistencies on even when there's only 2 of them playing, of them trying to play the spots. For example, Axile still has A on Ancient on both T side and CT, lurking A and then playing A donut, whereas HeavyGod used to play there and HeavyGod has moved over to B and B site. But then on Mirage, HeavyGod got his cat spot on CT where Axile is now connector. So I think that there's going to be this trade-off of, hey, you take these, I'll take these. But I do think it's going to take a lot of adjusting, and I'm hoping that they can find a way that both Axile and HeavyGod thrive instead of both of them suffering, because they are both site anchors, and while they're usually off at the solo sites, I think they should be able to adjust to being an anchor also on the main site. HeavyGod seems to like to also be in the mix, so I think HeavyGod could thrive in those main sites as well. So let's kind of look through my planned roles. I went through the demos and the Faceit demos and kind of have put together what I think are going to be their roles. And I think that on T side, Boomich will be the main entry, Interz the main support, along with Icy, who I believe Icy will be the one supporting when they're actually entering in on the site, whereas Interz will start off being more of a support in the round and then maybe turn into kind of a mid-round entry. I think the main fragger will be HeavyGod and the lurker will be Axile if you're putting them into one category, but I think that the way they're going to share that is Axile's going to have one side of the map and be lurking there, and if they're going to that side of the map, then he's the main fragger on that side of the map. On the other side, it's HeavyGod. So for example, on Ancient, if they're going towards A, then Axile's there, Axile's in, he's the main fragger, he's going in, and HeavyGod is kind of lurking behind on B. Again, if they go B, he's lurking over there, he goes. So I think that the main fragger and lurker are both potentially interchangeable here, just depending on map or side of the map that they're going to, but I would classify Axile as what I assume will be the actual main lurker. As far as defensive roles, if we go through the maps, for Ancient, I have Axile the same spot as A dedicated, Donut, Solo A, etc. Icy is the Awper. Mid and Cave is interesting because both Interz and Boomich play Cave. So I have Interz slotted down right now as mid because I really like the way Boomich plays Cave. But the problem is I don't think Interz is going to be good mid. So I might change that over to Boomich being mid and Interz being Cave because that just seems to fit their personalities more. And then HeavyGod has been B dedicated, B ramp, that kind of stuff. Anubis, HeavyGod is staying on A dedicated. That was his role before. That was Axile's role. Axile's getting moved on this map, unlike on Ancient. Boomich will play mid. Icy floating around the map. Axile will be B dedicated, and then Interz will actually be B connector, where Hobbit was. So Axile is taking B dedicated where Perfecto was. Dust 2, Axile was long. I think Axile is probably moving to A dedicated just based on the facets I've seen, and Interz will take long. Boomich will be playing mid. HeavyGod will be soloing B site like he used to, and then obviously Icy opping. On Inferno, this is a couple guesses here. HeavyGod, I think, is the one who's going to be staying pit. HeavyGod and Axile both played pit on A. HeavyGod seems so good there. So many clips of him there. I think that he should stay in that role. Then you have A mid and Arches, that's Icy. The flex, like the person who plays A or is rotating to B, I have as Interz. Boomich, there's no way he's leaving that B wall. He lives on that wall on Banana. There's no way he's not staying there. And then Axile on B. Now Axile could be changed to flex with Interz, but I think a site with Boomich and Interz is too weak. And so I think that it makes more sense if Axile is kind of like a solo B if Boomich is up at the wall or dies early or that kind of stuff. I think that kind of makes sense just to have Boomich and Axile there. But Axile could stay pit and HeavyGod go B if HeavyGod wants to be like more in the mix all the time. I don't know, but I wouldn't take HeavyGod off pit if it was me. Mirage, A dedicated, Boomich is where he was. Icy window, B dedicated, Interz. He's played that before, doing the jump spotting. And then B cat, HeavyGod takes that from Axile and he's the one playing cat in their facets. And then Axile's playing connector, which is off of his role. Axile, I think, will be a good connector player. He plays lurk on B a lot, going underpass and things like that. So I think he understands those timings and I think he'll be a fine player inside of connector. Nuke, I don't know what they're going to ban. I have Nuke written down as my guess of their ban. But for Nuke, you have HeavyGod at mini and outside, which is also where Boomich played, but I believe Boomich can take over kind of hut in that area. Solo on the site, I would have Axile, but he used to play ramp. I think ramp is going to go to Interz because, again, that just seems to make more sense. Put Axile on a site, have Interz be the one just doing the pixel peeking. They come, drop a smoke, drop a molly, whatever. Outside, obviously Icy. And then Vertigo, we have A dedicated, Icy, A scaffold, Boomich, A ramp, Axile. Mid and B flex is Interz, and B dedicated is HeavyGod. Now, Axile used to be B dedicated. When Axile was playing there, back when they were Gambit and they had just become Cloud9, Axile was the best B Vertigo player in the world by like a 0.2 or something like that. He had like a 1.28 or something, and then the next best player, Anchor, had like a 1.08 or something on the map. He was absolutely absurd. That said, I give it to HeavyGod. We'll see what they do, but that's what I would do. So obviously a lot of guesses here, a lot of just looking at their facets and gathering value from that, but that's how I believe that their roles would go. And we'll see, and I'll update this obviously, and we'll talk about it as we actually see official matches or maybe more facets of them playing together. So now let's talk about things to watch from the team. A lot of our team likes to go in and trade and play clutches. So how is that transition for site takes? Again, about being passive, which is something to watch for, is how they're changing that or what that looks like in this team. Another thing to watch, how does Boomich IGL with an actual Awper? I believe in him as an IGL. I think he showed what he can do with a lineup that didn't make any sense. So I'm excited to see him with a lineup that can play the way he wants with a good Awper behind him. I'm very high on Boomich. I want to see what strats he can do and what he can pull off with an actual Awper. Another thing to look at, how will HeavyGod and especially Axile do with new roles? HeavyGod is newer to the scene. He's only a year younger, but it just feels like he's like younger. So I feel like he could be more adaptable, but let's just look at HeavyGod and Axile. How are they going to do with the new roles? Can Interz hang in tier 1 after so long? It's been such a long time since he's played tier 1 officials. He's played like 3 top 50 teams or something like that in the last year and a half. That's going to be an important thing to watch. How will the chemistry be, since it feels like it's been a while since we've actually had a happy team? Back when we had Nafany, it seemed like no one was happy. Then we get Electronic, then it seems like no one's happy. Then we bring in Boomich and it seems like no one's happy. Will we actually have a team that has good chemistry? That's something that will be interesting to watch. Can Groove put this together? I want to see him bring some innovation to the team. I want to see more from Groove, and that's something I'll be watching for. Will we be competitive with the top teams? We're going to be playing these top teams. Will we actually be competitive with the Spirits, with the Phases, with the Vitalities, with the Mouses? Let's find out. That's something to be on the lookout for. Will Icy get more aggressive? Now, Icy was really passive on some maps, Inferno, Vertigo, but he also was a little bit more aggressive on other maps like Dust 2, which kind of makes sense. The other two are harder opping maps, and Dust 2 is kind of an opper's playground. Will he end up being a more aggressive player if everyone else wants to be passive? If Interz and Axile and HeavyGod want to play for the late round situations, will he get more aggressive and be more in the front, or will he just keep doing the same thing where he's kind of the utility dump to get everyone else in the side on executes and then he comes in? That's something I'll be watching out for. And the last thing I'm looking at is the teamwork. When we had all rifles, it seemed like the teamwork was good, even though off the server it seemed like the chemistry was awful. Will everyone like each other? Will they accept their roles? Will they not be bitter about their roles? Will they not start to hate the fact that they've had to change so much? Will they trade well? Will they throw their life away if they need to give someone else a chance instead of playing for the late round? It's going to be very interesting to watch the teamwork. I have a feeling that the teamwork is going to be really good. It seems that HeavyGod is super excited. Based on the number of hours Axile is playing, I calculated his hours from the last time I checked, which was a few months ago, till now. He's averaging just under 14 hours a day in CS. Now, is that idle or is that playing? I don't know, but that is a lot of hours in CS. So it seems like Axile might be absolutely on the grind right now. I believe in Boomich as a chemistry guy. I believe HeavyGod is extremely happy to be here and extremely excited. He's been posting all about it for like a month now, playing with the team. Icy's finally up in a tier 1 team. There's no way he's not excited to do that. He could finally show what he can do. And lastly, this was kind of a lifeline for Interz. I don't think there was anyone else looking to pick up Interz. I think that they looked at him and they made sense for their chemistry, and just with all the other stuff going on, and they tried out Sypho and he didn't work out and everything else. This is like probably the last shot for Interz. He has to come in and has to perform, because if he comes in and is bad and gets cut, that's probably it for Interz. So I think he's coming in. He obviously knows Axile, knows Groove, knows the whole system. I think he's excited to be there. So I think we have a team of people who it all makes sense to be excited to be together. The announcement of this roster doesn't give me the absolutely delighted feeling that I had when I was sitting in my car, getting food, looking at my phone, and I see Electronic and Perfecto have signed to Cloud9. I'll never forget that feeling or where I was when that happened. But maybe that's a good thing because we've had a couple super teams in the past and none of them have worked out. We have one trophy since the Boston Major. I want to bring more of that. So I'm hoping that by not having the super team and instead having a team that makes sense of people who are excited to be there, excited to play together, ready to work, that can bring home some hardware. And that's what we're here for. We're here to win majors. That's going to be the standard I'm holding to this team. Standard hasn't changed. We lose Electronic Perfecto Shiro. The standard is still winning majors. That's what I'm going to hold him to. And I think that there's a potential that we can get there, but a lot's got to work out. C9 win. I'll see you next time.